morning, good afternoon, good evening. Some of us have said that Chamisa is corrupt, incompetent, a liar, and a conman. The people of Zimbabwe have made a mistake in trusting him and allowing themselves to be conned to participate in flawed elections only to give ZANU-PF legitimacy and perpetuate the dictatorship. For saying that, we found ourselves labeled public enemy number one. And no doubt if some of those people had the opportunity to do so, they would have lynched me and many others. Such is the level of political hostility and intolerance in Zimbabwean culture. Still, some of us have refused to budge and restated that problem. Here is John Nyika, one of the founding members of MDC, giving an insight into what Chamisa's leadership is all about. Indeed, he calls Chamisa a political criminal, and here is why.
Zvinhu zvakaitika nezvekuti vasvangirai vafa after the death of the president, including Morgan Tsvangirai. Chamisa alleged, he said, I was appointed by Morgan Tsvangirai and they formed the system. Saka vanhu veMDC vakati chifunga kuti vari kutevera the MDC yaTsvangirai yasiwa mumaoko ane mvumo. Only to realize it later that they are following the criminal. Nokuti since 2000 patakafoma MDC hakuna kumbova neelection yakasupportwa opposition neSADC. You still remember the first election yakaitwa naChamisa akaisa ZANU-PF court ikascreeniwa live paTV nemi maitarira vamuri kuZimbabwe. Ndokumala vakati tazviona kuti waprezidenta kuti wakabirwa chitipa mavhiri. Isu tisu taiva mapolling agents takatamupa mavhiri. Why did he refuse to bring them out? Tina maconstituents aitaiziva kuti iyi yakahwiniwa takapa Chamisa mavhiri. Asi wakaramba nawo koti ichida kuti kana avapa vowana proof yokuti wakabirwa. Ndopatakatanga kuziva kuti tiri kutevera a criminal, political criminal. You get me? Second point, ino election yapedzisira ndo yakauya SADC ichitenderana naye kuti wakabirwa. Mose Makama chizi munozviziva. Shure kwokuti wapuwa mandate yokunzi wabirwa, vanhu mumisha vanga votouruka kuti we are going to restart the election supervised by SADC and the African Union. Zvava papoint yokuti zvoda kuitika Mnangagwa atonziomira kugadzirwa tichimirira kuti zvigadziriswe. Chamisa withdrew from the CC. Sare SADC yamira kokoyoka haichina party na president. And you think vanhu vari mumisha umu havazvizivi. Ndoda kuti ndikuudzei kuti vanhu vakanguva vachema kudzoka kuMDC yavo ende havachadi zvimazita zvose zvivana triple C zvinana UM vanhu vanoda the original MDC but with the.
This is interesting stuff. I'd like to dwell on the one aspect that the gentleman is referred to, the events of 2018. He talked of how people were able to listen to the court proceedings of the court challenge brought on by Chamisa. This was important because it was the first time that the opposition had taken the ruling party to court. But it also revealed a lot of other things as well. And one of the glaring thing that came out is the very point that Nyika was talking about. The opposition, MDC's failure to produce the evidence to prove that the elections were rigged. I would like you to focus particularly on the point that was raised in the court proceedings when the opposition talked of there were 16 polling stations with identical results. I want you to concentrate on who refused to have the ballot boxes of those 16 polling stations opened, because that would have been the smoking gun.
Zimbabwe have now held their recent elections, which went well.
International monitors had to force their way through angry crowds to deliver their verdict. They reported serious flaws in the process. It was not a level playing field. Many injured and 3 dead. The opposition says the shootings and the beatings cannot be justified. And an election in which Zimbabwe dared to dream has instead brought back its worst nightmares. There were running battles through the city centre and the streets echoed to the sound of gunfire.
Zimbabwe have now held their recent elections, which went well.
You are ready now to start. I am ready. You may start.
Thank you, my lord. What ZEC has done is to violate the constitution, to violate the Electoral Act in a manner which has ultimately benefited the first respondent. National and Central, page 159, the report by the ZBC, it does 2 things. Number 1, it mentions figures. Number 2, it attributes those figures to a ZEC official. It says by 5:30 p.m., 105,000 people had voted in National and Central. The final figure that one gets from ZEC is that an hour and 30 minutes later, plus 370,000 people voted. Is it humanly possible? But it doesn't end there. Then there is the issue of identical polling results. There are at least 16 polling stations with identical results. Identical results for Chamisa, identical results for Mnangagwa, identical spoiled votes. And in all those places, Mnangagwa not only wins, but wins big. It's like a kid was playing with the figures. That, with respect, is not how an election is conducted.
We'll now give the opportunity to Mr. Kanengoni.
The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission cannot be taken to task to say, why is the voter turnout in my central at this particular level and not at that particular level? Voters behave the way they do. No one knows why. Maybe behavioral scientists may be able to answer the question if they study it.
Mr. Kanengoni, there's the averment that several polling stations showed identical results.
And the simple point we make is that there's no need to be theoretical about it. We have the returns. This is something that happened. We show you the returns. And we've put the returns for 2 of those polling stations here to illustrate the point.
You say it happened?
Yes.
But in his presentation, Pofu says it's actually 16 polling stations where the identical results. You heard it?
Yes, we did. Even in the affidavit, they put a bit more of the polling stations there. But we chose this to illustrate to the court. But for the rest, it did happen. It did actually occur.
We'll now go back to the applicant. Why go for speculative conclusions of manipulation?
The point that I wish to make is that this is evidence of manipulation by ZEC after the process. Now, if you go to what they call the primary data, you're going to see manipulated data. So the applicant cannot ask a court to open residue which has already been manipulated. If you go to the residue, you will drink from a poisoned well.
I think that is the most important point. The Chief Justice there was right. Why are you going for speculative manipulation? Anyone who is familiar with the electoral process will tell you that part of the electoral process is you count all the ballot papers and you sign them and you put them all in the box and you seal it. The election officials or the election agencies will all witness that process. The reason why the information is kept, all of it, is in case there is a court challenge of the results. The court can then order those sealed ballot boxes to be opened in the presence of all the officials who were involved, who, before the box is opened, will be asked to confirm that the box is sealed and has not been tampered with. Once they've confirmed that, it will then be opened and the information contained therein verified. In this particular instance, the 16 polling stations where you'll have maybe 2 of them with identical results, and the most important point which Chamisa's lawyer mentioned there is that in all those 16, Mnangagwa not only did well, he did exceptionally well. The rational conclusion from that is clearly a situation where the result of that polling station was entered twice. So you end up with 2 polling stations with identical results, identical in every respect. And this would have been done to top up Mnangagwa's votes. So in this case, you're saying, okay, let's open the sealed boxes of those 16 polling stations, would have been the smoking gun. Because as much as one can duplicate the V11 of a polling station, you cannot duplicate the returning officers, the election agencies, everything. So you would have found one station existed where you've got all that information, which will correspond to the V11. But when you go for the second, there is no duplicate box, sealed box. So I'll go back to the argument. Who refused to have the sealed boxes opened? It wasn't the ZEC officials. It wasn't the court officials, Chief Justice Malaba himself. It was Chamisa's legal team. They did not want to open those sealed boxes because they didn't want to drink from a poisoned well. You were not being asked to drink from the poisoned well. You were only being asked to establish beyond all reasonable doubt that there is no duplicate polling station. These were just double entries. So why did Chamisa's team refuse to have the evidence, the smoking gun evidence, that the elections were rigged? John Nyika talks of another important point. Chamisa was given, according to him, the V11, which would have shown that the polling stations results were A, B, C, D. And those election results did not correspond to the results that were announced by ZEC. Chamisa never produced those V11s. Why? As much as one can say, well, this is just one man talking, we also have supporting evidence. Here is the court proceedings, where even the Chief Justice himself said, why didn't you ask for the ballot boxes to be opened? Because that is exactly the reason why it is written as part of the procedure. I think we would have found that there are no duplicate, because you cannot duplicate a station, a polling station. You've got to duplicate the officials, all the other details that goes with it. In this particular case, you should have asked to see the V11 of those duplicate polling stations. Find out whether there was ever such a polling station. You cannot duplicate a polling station with all the details that goes into it. You cannot duplicate a sealed ballot box. This was the smoking gun. And yet, it was none other than Chamisa and his team who said, no, we don't want to open the seal boxes. Even after the Chief Justice himself said to him, why didn't you ask for it? He could have changed his mind. It's okay, we asked for it. I think we should go ahead and have them opened. But he's the one who insisted, no, we don't want to open it. We don't want to drink from a poisoned well. The people of Zimbabwe have got to wake up to the reality that Chamisa and his MDC, Triple C friends have been ZANU-PF Team B in all but name, playing for Team A to win and for Team A to have legitimacy. It is the people of Zimbabwe who have been shortchanged all along. As much as the primary purpose of electing the opposition in Zimbabwe was so that they could implement the democratic reforms necessary to end the ZANU-PF dictatorship, that unfortunately has not happened. Because the MDC, Triple C leaders sold out in implementing the democratic reforms and particularly during the GNU when they had the golden opportunity to do so. And ever since the failed GNU, they have connived to participate in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the elections were flawed and that participating will only give ZANU-PF legitimacy and perpetuate the ZANU-PF dictatorship. This is the political reality the people of Zimbabwe must deal with. I'm glad the truth is starting to come out now. Somebody said, oh, the people like John Nyika here will be murdered. I don't think so. But I won't put it beyond the regime. But even if they did, the truth is coming out. The level of suffering of the people of Zimbabwe has been such that it is near impossible to stop the truth coming out. So the truth is coming out whether or not some of the opposition or ZANU-PF officials like it or not. I believe the nation is moving from the age of rhetoric, slogans, propaganda, lies, bribes, fear. That has been part and parcel of our political system. We are now moving out of that age. It's a new dawn where truth is now being valued. Facts, realities and democratic accountability are now of paramount importance. There is no going back to the days of the past. That I can rest assure you. At the present moment, Chamisa is going to face an uphill climb to try to persuade people to believe his usual idiotic lies that he can win rigged elections. I hope that more and more people will open their eyes and their minds to the reality that Chamisa is indeed a political criminal. And they will not be conned into participating in flawed 2028 elections to give ZANU-PF legitimacy and perpetuate the dictatorship. The nation has got 3 years to drive that message home. And I believe that it is possible to make sure that the people are indeed educated and enlightened to realize that they've been conned for many, many years. We need change. And I think we are going to have that change. Chamisa is a political criminal, a liar, and a conman. How many people will be conned into participating in 2028 to give ZANU-PF legitimacy is open for question now. And I think it will not be the usual 2 million as we've seen in the past. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.